What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Kevin.
I'm Derek.
And together we are last week's album, The Only Reviews with two different views. And in this episode, we're exploring the question, how will Black Fox's emo rock, I'm Not Well, make you feel? Cheers, Derek, and everyone at home.
Cheers, Kevin, everyone at home.
Black Foxes are based out of Exeter in England. They are a trio on guitar, bass, and drums. There's also vocals. This is their full-length debut, which comes after a head-turning EP that garnered these guys a lot of attention. So let's talk about what they sound like. Derek, what do you think?
Kevin, I think Black Foxes sounds like the essences of Radiohead, Foo Fighters, the Pixies, and Led Zeppelin injected into a magic 8-ball and shaken up.
Nice. I think it sounds like Incubus, girl band, and Coheed Cambria having a group therapy jam session.
I can hear that too.
Okay, let's talk about some highlights from the album. Derek, what do you have?
Kevin, one thing I really liked was the overall sound, this high energy rock and roll. Even in some of the slower paced numbers or even just phrases within individual tracks, I thought they still maintained a very nice intensity that kept the album moving and also drew you in as a listener to tee up the higher points or louder sounds that they threw in as well.
Yeah. I thought the loud dynamics, these really monster riffs, volatile vocals, pummeling drums, and droney bass make it, to your point, Derek, an album that's really hard to ignore and hard not to get wrapped up into. It's sort of contagious, the energy they put out.
Kevin, another highlight to me was the strong musicianship and production, especially for a debut album. I thought it was very crisp, very well put together, and it definitely seemed like they knew what they wanted this to sound like. And for all intents and purposes, it sounds like they achieved that.
A similar note, I thought this album ended really well, which is not something I say very often. And I think it's something that's kind of rare to find. I think a lot of times bands sort of front load an album with singles, or they try to create this roller coaster ride that goes up and down. And this one just keeps going up to the very end. So I really appreciated the thought and the carry through that they showed there at the end of the album.
Kevin, that's a great point. In an ironic twist, in the tracks that stood out to me, at least I'm going to talk about, are some of the earlier ones. Title track, I'm Not Well, stood out to me. You know, this one really starts out kind of softly, but then hints at the soft, loud contrast that's going to develop throughout the album. Low-key verses contrasted with very large booming guitars and drums in the choruses. I just thought that made for a strong album opener. I also liked Whatever Lets You Cope. This one features verses with shimmering electric guitars, easy-paced drum beat, and plodding bass guitars. And in the chorus really turns to churning electric guitar chords, some backing vocals here. And it kind of ends with this very large built-up, driven by a great drum roll. Lyrics a little dark, but from an overall sound perspective, they really hit it out of the park for me on this one.
One of my key tracks is number 2, Husk. Layered vocals, crashing drums, chunky guitars create this really palpable energy that feels like it's about to explode. Later on Maple Summer proves they can sort of blend quiet and loud with soft and heavy, which is nice. And then finally Home, I thought, started with a really nice slow build that broke away into sort of brutal riffs and breakneck speed and shrieking vocals. Those are some good highlights. What about lowlights, Derek?
Kevin, just one small gripe I had was maybe some tracks were a little longer than they needed to be. Some parts maybe just a little too meandering, could have been a little bit briefer. That was a very small downside to an otherwise, very enjoyable listen.
Yeah, I just have one small gripe as well. I thought the overall sort of volume and speed and snarling vibe could get a little redundant at times. But I do think these guys have a very interesting and dynamic sound. So it was rare, but it did come up a few times for me. All right, that brings us to overall rating and answering the big question, how will Black Fox's emo rock, I'm Not Well, make you feel? Derek, what do you say?
Kevin, I think I'm Not Well made me feel very well, actually. At first, I was a little like, whoa, what's going on here? But the more I listened to it, the more I wanted to keep listening to it even more. Really just interesting blend of musical genres they're kind of alluding to here. Very crisp rock sounds. The contrast of loud and soft was really well done. So I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5.
Right on. We will agree for the most part. How will this album make you feel? I think cathartic and rejuvenated. It is a dark album, but I think it makes you feel better having listened to it. And this one really sort of blew me away on the first listen. I heard a few tracks and I was interested, but hearing the album from start to finish was a really, really great experience and a really strong effort on their debut album, as Derek said earlier. So I agree. I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5 as well. That makes a combined 8 out of 10. So definitely check out Black Fox's I'm Not Well. Don't forget to subscribe to us either on YouTube or the podcast. And as always, I'm Kevin.
I'm Derek.
Cheers, guys. We'll see you next time.